Did Jewish settlers really storm the Al-Aqsa Mosque this week? Well, I'm going to be honest. I was actually there, and that's not what I saw. This is the Joshua and Caleb Report.
In a world plagued with anti-Israel propaganda, Paul Yavel presents the Joshua and Caleb Report, a positive voice of truth straight from Israel's heartland.
In a world of negativity and fake news, every Christian should be connected to the life and positivity that Israel brings to the world. Luke, very excited to be back on here with you today. We've got a lot of really content that, you know what, the world just really needs to hear about. When you hear fake news out there, it really ruffles your feathers. Well, we got some more fake news to bust, and that's just what we've been, that's our lives now, is just busting leftist myths.
And this is going to be basically something you can Google the headlines, see them for yourself, and then we're going to actually show you, not just tell you, we're going to show you 100% the opposite is what actually happened.
That's right.
First, please make sure you hit subscribe, and I'm going to tell you why that is extremely important in a minute. But subscribe, leave us a comment down below. We'd love to hear from you. Join the conversation. And if you want to help us produce more content straight from Israel's biblical heartland, you can go to patreon.com/Joshua and Caleb, or directly on our website at joshuaandcaleb.com. Josh, last week we announced that we have a big announcement. And the big announcement was we're changing our name. But we promised that we would announce the brand new name on this week's show because we want to give you a heads up. It's happening very soon. We also asked for lots of feedback. And literally so many of you guys provided feedback, and that's going to help us produce exactly the content that you guys want to see and want to hear and connect with. We're expanding. We're going to hopefully explode on a brand new platform, multiple platforms. Super excited about that. But Josh, the time has come to announce the brand new name.
Give it to us.
I feel like we need a drum roll. I don't know if we prepared that, but the new name, we're changing from the Joshua and Caleb Network to the Israel Guys.
The Israel Guys.
You heard that right. And we have like a working logo up. Might change by the time we launch.
Websites,
but it's working logo.
The launch is big. We're going as big as possible.
You might be
really
wondering,
trying to get this information out.
No, yes, you heard that right. It is the Israel Guys. We're going to be, and obviously we are the Israel Guys, and lots of Israel girls around here. And this is literally going to be phase one of so much more. We have so much in store. We got to, I don't want to give it away, but
there's a lot more.
You're going to have the opportunity to be a Israel guy or an Israel girl. But on August 11th, you want to mark this down, we are going to be relaunching on YouTube, on Rumble, on all social media platforms that we're going to be on, which we're going to be on a lot, as the Israel Guys. Across the internet, we will be the Israel Guys. So the best way to make sure that you just don't lose our YouTube channel completely is to subscribe right now. And when you come back online on August 11th and see the Israel Guys pop up on your feed, you're going to go, that's us. Okay, super exciting, guys. We are super, super excited. Still operating in the spirit of Joshua and Caleb, the two good spies that brought back the good, positive report from the land of Israel. But we will be the Israel Guys. We're actually like pumped. Really, it's actually really hard for us to wait until August 11th.
I know, but I'm really pumped for this.
Yeah, very excited about
Everybody out there should let us know what they think, and do
please
follow. Keep in touch with us. There's a lot more content, and there's a lot of stuff as the world continues to revolve, and so much is happening. Luke, the Israel Guys, we got a job ahead of us.
That's right. Yeah, so drop a line in the comments. Let us know what you think about the new name. Love to hear from you.
Luke, let's define this week what storming the Al-Aqsa Mosque really means. Because obviously the news is saying that settlers, Israelis, came and stormed the mosque.
And I actually tested this. And if you want to test it yourself, you can. You can pause this video, go over to Google, and just type in Jewish settlers storm Al-Aqsa Mosque and see what pops up.
And look, by the way, who are Jewish settlers? Like, Jewish settlers are MKs. It sounds like some like ridiculous, like small little group of fanatics. That's not really the case. We're going to get a lot more into that.
This doesn't always happen, but you remember a few months ago, you happened to catch a fake Palestinian riot on camera.
Right.
Personally.
Yeah.
I was actually
Luke, you
there
got your shot
when the
time.
settlers stormed the Al-Aqsa Mosque, and I did take some photos and video. We're going to show that to you in just a minute. Okay, but first, reality check. And actually, this was a little bit of a revelation for me today. I realized that every time the international media says settlers, every time they make a statement, a headline that says settlers storm Al-Aqsa Mosque, you know what that means? That means that a Jew walked onto the Temple Mount and walked around the site. That's exactly what that means.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just walked around. There was no fighting.
And if you want to watch
no
them,
yelling.
If you want to watch them, we're going to play that video in a second. It means they went through the gate that is open to Jewish visitors and non-Jewish visitors, by the way. Yeah. That means they went during visiting hours. They went escorted by the Israeli police. They followed all the rules. They walked quietly around the site, and then they left. That is the definition, according to the international media, fake news, of storming the Al-Aqsa Mosque. Okay? A little bit of a backdrop.
Yeah, we need to get the backdrop.
This past Sunday, July 18th, was the 9th of Av on the Hebrew calendar, which commemorates the destruction of both temples in Jerusalem, as well as a lot of other calamities and tragedies that happened on that day. It's a fast day in Israel. It's actually the saddest day of the year in Judaism, when Jewish people mourn the tragedies and specifically the destruction of Jerusalem on this very day. Okay, this past Sunday, it's a fast day. People are not eating or drinking water. More than 1,600 Jews ascended the Temple Mount during the fast day, okay? We went to Jerusalem, we ascended the Temple Mount with the Jewish people, and we participated in that. I was a little bit shocked when the headlines came out later, and we got photos and videos in just a second. But first, Mansour Abbas, who is a member of Knesset and part of the governing coalition, here's what he had to say. He said the Jews have no right to access the Temple Mount, and the Kotel also belongs to the Muslims. Kotel is the western, like the Wailing Wall, the plaza.
Right.
Mansour Abbas, is a member of the Islamist party in the Knesset, and he's a member of the coalition. I mentioned that a second ago. And he came out against Jews visiting the Temple Mount. He said, quote, Al-Aqsa Mosque is a pure right of Muslims, and others have no right to it. He said this in Arabic, by the way.
All right.
Mr. Mansour Abbas, sorry to bust your bubble, but 100% of the Jews that went to the Temple Mount did not go there to visit the Al-Aqsa Mosque. Yeah. They were visiting the Temple Mount.
They actually could care less about it. And Luke, there's another thing I want to mention about here, and we got more to say about Abbas here, but status quo. Everybody talks about status quo when we talk about this. You know, nothing was breached about status quo. Jews have been visiting the Temple Mount, and that's perfectly okay. And maybe some Muslims think that that's not okay. And obviously, storming the Temple Mount means that Jews literally just walked around the top. That's their definition of storming. We'll get to the proper definition in a minute. But literally, status quo was not changed. The Naftali Bennett government, everything's exactly the same as it was.
Unfortunately,
people could go up, they could tour around. They're not supposed to openly pray and like make sing or like.
Yeah, there was actually I won't get to it, but the group I was with actually sang and prayed quietly, and they were allowed to do so. There was another group that got kicked off for trying to sing that very same day.
Depends on your guard.
Yeah, exactly. Mansour Abbas wrote, the Islamic movement inside the Palestinian territories in the United Arab List warned against large numbers of settlers storming and violating the sanctity of the blessed Al-Aqsa Mosque since the morning hours, the heart of the hearts of more than 2 billion Muslims in the world, threatening that this may result in events and inflame the situation in Jerusalem and the entire region that may lead to a devastating religious war, just as Israel allows the official figures and members of the Knesset to storm Al-Aqsa, perform prayers, perform religious rituals, and sing the Israeli national anthem, Hatikva, in the courtyards of the blessed Al-Aqsa. Full disclosure, we did sing Hatikva, the Israeli national anthem, not in the mosque. Nobody even went in the mosque, okay? They basically... This member of Knesset, member of the Islamist party, he accused settlers of storming the Al-Aqsa and accused members of Knesset. Actually, I didn't realize it till later. One of those MKs was in our group with us.
Right.
They said that these people were storming the Al-Aqsa Mosque. There was a little bit of commotion coming out of the mosque, and I have a video of it. But first, Josh, I think did you look up what the definition of storm?
I just went ahead and had to look it up because I was like, man, am I got a definition problem here? Stormed, move angrily or forcefully in a specified direction. So we're going to show some videos here, Luke.
Right.
And we're going to see if this is the case.
That first
Stormed
video.
a good word for this. And then we're also going to talk about the mosque a little bit too, and who actually cares about the mosque. Let's watch this video.
So we ascended the Temple Mount on Sunday, and the building you see right in front of you is the Al-Aqsa Mosque, and every Jewish group that goes up on the Temple Mount complex goes past the mosque and heads to the eastern side of the Temple Mount. Here you see police kind of in front of us there to the right. The police actually steered us to the left because as you can see on the ground, there's all these rocks and blocks laying on the ground. And as we got closer, we realized that someone inside the mosque had broken the window, and they were throwing. If you look closely, you can actually see rocks flying through the window from the inside of the mosque and landing right in front here. And these police were trying to keep them at bay and make sure that they didn't hit anybody. And the police that were escorting our group actually moved us to the left so that we could avoid that area. So yes, there was a little bit of commotion. I guess you could say a little more than a little bit. Oh, there you go. See a nice block just landing on the ground. Came right from inside the mosque. They broke their own window, which is kind of odd. And they were just chucking rocks and blocks right through the window, landing on the ground there. But we went past them. We kept moving. What I thought was interesting is that here's a close-up of all the rocks that were on the ground. And I think I have a picture of the broken window as well. Just tons of rocks just covering the ground right there. But as we moved past that area, I actually started noticing all these little piles of rocks that were all over the place. And I realized these were stockpiled so that Arabs could throw these rocks at Jewish groups that were visiting on that day. And I guess the police caught it in time, and so they kept the majority of like Arab groups off so that the visitors could peacefully walk around the mount. As you can see, very violent settlers storming the Al-Aqsa Mosque. And like I mentioned in the beginning, 180 degrees opposite of what actually happened. Yeah. Because rioters inside the mosque, Arab rioters, actually broke the windows and were throwing rocks from inside to the outside, attempting to hit any passing Jew.
So, Luke, back to the definition. If we're going to define who stormed the Temple Mount, so let's just say the Temple Mount was stormed. Let's say they got that part right. The people that were walking around like we just showed the video, and what you captured on your camera there was what the whole media is talking about. There wasn't another incident. That was the incident they were talking about right there. When you see it anywhere, Jewish settlers stormed the Temple Mount. That's the situation. Those are the people right there. You were in the group of settlers that stormed the Temple Mount. So, definition: the ones who stormed were actually, I would say, the Arabs that were. Maybe the rock-throwing Arabs that busted their own holy mosque, right? It's their holy shrine. You're going to bust the windows out?
Hearts of 2 billion Muslims in the world, right? According to Mansour Abbas. We're going to get to that.
I think not. That must not be such a holy place. If you're going to bust the windows out and throw rocks at people that are peacefully walking by, and then you're going to stash rocks all around the edges of the Temple Mount compound there to throw... Okay, that's, to me, the ones who stormed the Temple Mount.
Quite possibly.
Yeah.
Guys, a whole lot more coming right up. This is the Joshua and Caleb Report. We'll be right back with the rest of the show, but first, did you know that when Jesus overturned the tables in the temple, the Gospels tell us zeal for the house consumed him? Did you know that when Jesus was lost in Jerusalem for 3 days as a 12-year-old, he assumed his parents would look for him in the temple? Did you also know that Jesus told his disciples he was going to prepare rooms for them in the temple? Ben Hilton's book, Jesus Loves the Temple, will explain all of these stories about Jesus' love for the temple in Jerusalem. Purchase the book today by clicking the link in the description below or order on Amazon. With the return of the Jewish people to their land in 1948 after 2,000 years of exile and the return of the Temple Mount to Jewish hands in 1967, Christianity has been forced to deal with re-examining theological issues that were thought to be long settled with the absence of the Jewish people from their land. Among these issues are Christian Zionism, replacement theology, and now the need for a temple in Jerusalem. Join author Ben Hilton as he takes a fresh look at the issue of a Jewish temple in Jerusalem as seen through the lens of Christian tradition, Jewish thought, scripture, and Jesus the Messiah himself. Everything you thought about a Jewish temple in Jerusalem and our Messiah's heart for the temple might be different than what you thought before. Find out for yourself by ordering Ben Hilton's book, Jesus Loves the Temple, by clicking the link in the description below. As always, use promo code Joshua and Caleb for a special listener-only discount.
All right, so did settlers actually storm the Temple Mount? Well, obviously not. We just busted that completely. That's not the truth. If anybody stormed the Temple Mount or the Al-Aqsa Mosque, it was actually the Arabs themselves who consider it. This is what I find interesting, Luke, who actually consider it the third most holy site in Islam. So why would you be busting the windows out of the so-called third most holiest site of Islam? Well, more on that, Luke, is actually the Al-Aqsa. I said it right. Al-Aqsa in Arabic is actually you know what it means? The farthest.
Oh, wow.
It means the furthest. It's like the furthest away. And we're going to show you a picture.
And I just wanted to
a
reference too, because Mansour Abbas actually specifically said this week, quote, that the Al-Aqsa Mosque is the heart of hearts of more than 2 billion Muslims in the world. Well, that's just flat out not true.
So if it's in the heart of hearts, these men who busted the windows out should be the headlines, if that's actually true. Obviously, it's not true. And actually, the Al-Aqsa is the furthest. It's the most insignificant place in Islam. It's like the furthest away from where? Mecca. Everybody knows it. Mecca is the holy place. What is Jerusalem? It's not it's again, if a Jew, we were just prepping to plant trees again today. If a Jew takes that land and claims it as his, the Arab wants it as well.
Right.
It's this whole thing. Today, Luke, they're celebrating the Islamic holiday of what? The exact copy of what the story of the Bible about Abraham and Isaac.
Right.
They take it to Abraham and Ishmael. Everything's a copy. They're going to take what the Jews have and try to make it their own. That's exactly what we see, and we'll get more to the holiday in just a second.
Can I just bring this into context for a second?
Yeah.
Okay. The Al-Aqsa Mosque is obviously a holy site for Muslims, but like you mentioned, it is the third holiest site for Muslims, and it's the furthest away from Mecca, right?
Yeah.
Well, the Temple Mount is actually the holiest site for Jews and Judaism, the number one site. And yet the world has it completely flipped on its head, because Muslims, and we got a picture, there's like 100,000 Muslims worshiping
today
on the Temple Mount complex today for this holiday. We'll talk more about it in a second. Well, Jews cannot, when they're allowed on the saddest day of the year, when they're mourning the destruction of the temple, to go up there. They're not allowed to pray. They're not allowed to worship at all.
And how many?
And
were
the Prime
allowed
Minister of Israel actually clarified that the status quo of Jews being able to visit but not worship. He actually said that. We'll talk about that more in a second.
Luke,
but I just think it's so ironic that you have third holiest site, farthest from Mecca, but Muslims are allowed to do whatever they want up there. And you have holiest site for Jews and Judaism, but they're not allowed to do anything.
Luke, you mentioned you're on the Temple Mount with the MK. We need to get to the reactions of what's going on in Israel, because obviously this sounds outrageous from our perspective. What's the
member of Knesset from the Yamina party, Amichai Shikli, he was actually in our group, and I didn't realize this till afterwards, but he was on the Temple Mount on Sunday. That's how things work in Israel. Like, you have a member of the government. It's like having a senator or congressman in your group, but like they just dress normal. They don't have security. It's amazing. But he went around the Temple Mount in our group, and afterwards he quoted to the media, he said, quote, "Sovereignty is the freedom of every grain of soil in Israel." Who even asked the United Arab List what's permitted and what's forbidden? Whoever stutters when it comes to issues of the Temple Mount will stutter when it comes to any area of Israel. And he emphasized, I will not ask Ra'am's permission, Mansour Abbas, to sing Hatikva. And he was part of the group that sang the Hatikva.
So we got to get this right again, Luke. So what the world is saying is some radical right-wing settler, they're calling settler storm the Temple Mount, is actually an MK from the Knesset,
and I didn't mention,
the highest level of government.
Well, I didn't mention, too, he is a member of the Prime Minister of Israel's party in the Knesset.
Yeah, so you're talking about one of the most highest level officials is actually in your group and you don't even know it. And also, that's the settlers problem. Fact check. That just doesn't work anymore. This is a living piece of Israel that represents a huge majority of Israel that actually want to go visit the Temple Mount, and they're not storming.
No.
That's just
Prime Minister Naftali Bennett. At first, he seemed like he was supporting the freedom of worship of Jews on the Temple Mount, especially on the 9th of Av.
Right.
And he actually said that. But then he clarified later on, because he was getting pressure from Mansour Abbas, the Muslim party, who is a part of his coalition, and he really has to depend on him to keep the government together. He clarified later that there was no change in the status quo, and that he intended to allow Jews to visit the site, not to enjoy freedom of worship there. So Prime Minister of Israel's hands kind of tied when it comes to what he says, and even his policies regarding the Temple Mount.
The Kotel belongs to Muslims too, Luke. We've got the quotes from the Ram that we talked about in the beginning of the show. That's a big problem, that he says that actually the whole thing, the whole 144 dunams of land that the whole Temple Mount area stands on, as well as the mosque and the Dome of the Rock in the center, they're claiming it all for Islam.
Right, what you might know as the Wailing Wall, the Western Wall, he's actually saying that belongs to Muslims as well. He actually said, quote, "The blessed Al-Aqsa Mosque with all of its 144 dunams area, which includes the Kotel Plaza, is a pure right of Muslims and no one else has any right in it, and that the Islamic movement and all our people inside the Palestinian interior and Al-Quds al-Sharif will stand as an impenetrable dam against all attempts by extremists, those extremist others, to impose a new fait accompli or any kind of division, temporal or spatial, inside the blessed Al-Aqsa Mosque.
Luke, so this crazy, ridiculous...
Making some fantastic statements there.
Right, yeah, very wordy.
Which one you already gave where does the Al-Aqsa actually fall in the history of Islam? You gave that. It's very simple.
Very simple.
Third holiest site, furthest away from Mecca.
Yeah. And only important because it's important to the Jews. Can we just say that?
Exactly.
That's not politically correct, but we just said it. Jordan, Egypt, Turkey, Palestinian Authority, and Hamas all agreed with Abbas in a statement. So Israel's surrounded by a bunch of naughty neighbors here that aren't allowing Israel to have any say-so in their history. Can you not have any say-so in your history? The temple actually, I mean, it's historic. The temple actually stood on the Temple Mount, the holiest site on the planet for Jews.
Holiest site for Judaism.
So Daniel alone says, because the world, we always hear this, exercise restraint.
Right.
The world in the UN, you hear from America now, and you hear that, exercise restraint. Israel, just hold back. Those knuckleheads are shooting you and throwing rocks at you. Just exercise restraint. Right? Well, that doesn't, okay, so Daniel alone, a great fellow, gets it straight. He says it's wrong.
Israel ambassador to the UN.
Correct. He says it's wrong to call upon all sides to exercise restraint when one side is the instigator and the other is defending itself. He says pressure must be solely on Hamas to ensure they are put on notice, thus creating stronger deterrence in the region. So Hamas, PA, all these people that are actually causing the ruckus. Okay, there's a difference. Mm-hmm. There's people that are causing ruckus and the people that are defending themselves. Okay, so let's not exercise restraint on the side of defense.
Right. And like I said before, let's not flip things on their head.
Right.
And take the number one holiest site for Jews and make it like so unimportant.
Here's the other
Say, let's exercise restraint when it comes to, let's put this in context, United States. Let's exercise restraint when it comes to protecting the Statue of Liberty. I mean, come on.
Well, you might
Seriously.
hear that now, Luke. I mean, that is crazy, but yeah. Luke, another crazy thing is the Waqf. So the Waqf is the Jordanian guard that watches over the Temple Mount. Well, this is fascinating.
Go figure that out, by the way.
Yeah,
Jordanian Waqf is actually in charge of the Temple Mount that is in Israel that the Palestinians claim authority over.
That Israel took in 1967, hands down. They just took it like they won it in war, but then handed the key to the Jordanian Waqf, not the Palestinians. The Jordanian Waqf hold the keys and can tell Israel what and what not to do, but Israel in the end decides what it wants to do. Okay, that's confusing.
If you're not confused, you should be.
Okay, so this is what the Waqf... And okay, this is why it gets a little bit exciting right now, Luke, is because the king of Jordan, Abdullah, I believe his name, is actually in America right now.
Right.
He just visited President Biden. And so this is interesting timing because we have the Waqf, and the Waqf really is represented by the king of Jordan with President Biden. Very interesting and crazy to be the same day that he just happens to be visiting the president of America. Now, this is what the Waqf says, represented again, like I said. The Waqf condemned the violations and attacks carried out by Jewish fanatic groups. Again, can we define this? Jewish fanatic groups are the MK that represents the party of the prime minister. Okay, just sorry. Okay, Luke, you were there. What were the attacks? What did you do? What did you do? Their attack was, if anything, was prayer and singing the national anthem.
Yeah, they sang the hot tikva. Yeah,
what an attack! You're not allowed to sing the national anthem, according to the Jordanians.
Took some pictures. Yeah.
Okay.
Walked around the site quietly. There actually wasn't one guy in our group that did anything except walk around, pray quietly, take pictures, sing the national anthem, and then leave.
Okay,
that was it.
The Arabs are throwing rocks and whatever and all this, but if how does a Jew get arrested on the Temple Mount? You were there. I mean, nobody in your group got arrested, right?
No.
Yeah. So, but how he would have got arrested?
Anybody that was threatened to get arrested.
He could have gotten arrested. How could he have gotten arrested? If he would have kneeled down.
By
we talked about it at the beginning.
Yeah.
If he would have kneeled down and prayed. So he prayed silently with his mouth, right? He just moved his lips. If he would have bent down on his knees, like bowed, arrested.
Yep.
That's how he would.
Handcuffed and hauled off right away. Yeah,
so
and it's happened before. Multiple times. There are several people in our group that were, because it's the saddest day of the year, they're on the Temple Mount, they were actually crying. They were in tears. Yeah. But even so, they restrained themselves, prayed quietly, and that was it.
Luke, there's one more thing we got to talk about.
If this site, is so sacred to the Muslims, then why did they stand inside the Aqsa Mosque and chuck bricks through the window, breaking their own windows, trying to hit some Jew that's standing outside or walking by.
Can we just say, wake up, world? Here's the news. This is what's actually happening.
Maybe it's because they know that the international headlines are going to say 1,000 Jewish settlers stormed the Al-Aqsa Mosque. If they do that.
The 100,000 Arabs that are there right now?
Yeah.
Like literally right now, the 100,000 Arabs are on the Temple Mount.
See if I could say the name of this.
Go for it.
Eid al-Adha.
I think you did it right.
The festival of sacrifice, something like that.
So this is where they're celebrating.
It's kind of like the Muslim copy of the sacrifice of Isaac, right?
Yeah, it's exactly the same story.
With Ishmael.
Yeah.
So it's a holiday for Islam. And if we show that picture one more time, there's 100,000. There
right
was
now
1,600 Jews that visited on Sunday for Tisha B'Av,
and it got world news.
Today, there's 100,000 worshipers on the Temple Mount to celebrate Eid al-Adha.
Right. And Luke,
guaranteed, you're not going to see any headlines around the world that say Muslim worshipers storm the Temple Mount or, threaten the rights of Jews to visit the number one holiest site in Judaism. You're not going to see anything like that whatsoever.
What you will see in that picture, though, Luke, is a bunch of people with their rear ends faced toward the Temple Mount.
Right.
How disgraceful. Okay, so if anybody wants to respect history, the temple stood there. I'm looking at you. 100,000 rear ends pointed towards the holiest site in Judaism. I mean, nobody's going to say what I just said.
They're facing away from the Dome of the Rock, right? Which is supposed to be the holy site in Islam. Because where are they facing? Towards Mecca. Because that's their number one holiest site.
All right, guys, if you don't get it clear, hey, that's as clear as we can put it. Yep. That's just it, Luke.
Guys, we don't know what else to say, except the headlines out there are fake news when it comes to Israel. So many times. Google it for yourself. Jewish settlers storm Al-Aqsa Mosque. See what comes up. Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget, name change happening on August 11th. We will no longer be the Joshua and Caleb Network. We will be the Israel Guys. And best way to stay connected with us is to subscribe to the channel below. Make sure you hit the notifications. Let us know in the comments what you think. In the meantime, be strong, be courageous, and be the voice of Joshua and Caleb in your generation.
I believe in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
Hi guys, if you enjoyed the show, make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. We also have tons more incredible content straight from Israel's heartland, which you can find completely free at joshuaandcaleb.com. If you're interested in signing up for a life-changing volunteer program in Israel's heartland, you can go to serveisrael.com. We host Christians from all over the world to help plant trees, harvest grapes, prune vines, and basically help farmers all over Judea and Samaria, all while experiencing the land and people of Israel in a way that you're never going to get on a 10-day tour. Just go to serveisrael.com to find out more information.